Hello, I'm Brea Parnell.
And I'm Mathilde and Brea. Welcome to TMN Television on Thursday, October 12th.
Tonight, we go over the Student Senate's forum on the possible curriculum changes.
Later, we look at the newest additions to the Truman Athletics Hall of Fame.
These stories and more tonight on TMN Television. You don't want to miss this.
The Student Senate recently held a public forum to discuss changes to the liberal studies program with students. Here is TMN's Brea Parnell with a story.
After requesting the Faculty Senate and committee members postpone the final decision on the Liberal Studies program changes, Student Senate held a public forum on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. The purpose of the forum was to inform students of the possible LSP changes as well as spark discussion. Bridget Thomas and Deborah Cartwright, members of the two action committees involved in the changes, spoke to students and outlined the possible curriculums, Plan A and Plan B. Student Government President Kyra Cooper says forums like theirs are important because they get a variety of student experiences and inputs. Cooper says Student Senate passed out surveys based on the plans for the LSP changes at the forums and will present those to Faculty Senate where they will be taken into consideration.
I think that student input is maybe something that's been traditionally limited to maybe a few students, particularly if you go back to the blueprint teams or the action teams. There were maybe one or two students on each committee, but I think that these forums are a really helpful way to get a broader sense of student input. And I think you even saw that during the forum. There would be students who were I'm very passionate about how this impacts issues like mental health, and students who were I'm involved in a lot of organizations.
Student Senate found they wanted to postpone the decision after attending a strategic planning and assessment workshop earlier this year. Student Government felt that after hearing the changes, students needed to be more involved with the decision making. Student Academic Affairs Chair Deanna Schmidt says government really wanted student input because even though the LSP changes will not affect current students, it is the responsibility of current students to give input on what they think will work in the future. Schmidt says Truman needs to uphold a certain reputation and the LSP changes could possibly affect that.
We have to keep in mind what Truman's mission statement is and what Truman's legacy is that we're going to be leaving with this new core curriculum. Because we are Missouri's only public liberal arts university, that sets us apart automatically, but because of that we have to have a distinct curriculum. And so there was a lot of discussion tonight, and there's been a lot of discussion for years about what distinctive means, and so I think that's really the most important part to keep in mind.
Student Government does not currently have any other plans for public student involvement due to the time-sensitive nature of the LSP changes, though there are possibilities for more forums depending on how willing faculty is to wait for more student input. For the Truman Media Network, I'm Brea Parnell.
The search for a new Vice President of Student Affairs is ongoing as the committee has chosen 6 candidates to interview over Skype in the coming weeks, according to the committee chair, Dr. Elizabeth Clark. Clark says the list of applicants reached 22 since they released the job opening and started reviewing the applications in early September, but has since been condensed after the committee met last Thursday. She says finding available time for every candidate to be interviewed will be challenging. She also says the objective is to pick a new VPSA by January, but they would not mind going past their deadline to make sure they pick the right person for Truman.
Our primary concern is having the right person for Truman, rather than rushing to make sure we have somebody in place January 1 or January 15. And so to that end, if for some reason the person who is the right person for us would not be available until May or June, we would manage that.
Truman State University Faculty Senate has adopted a new attendance policy that will go into effect August 2018. The policy sets a common basis for the number of sanctioned absences students can have. The policy, based on August 24, is different in that it does not leave attendance decisions up to the professors as was done previously. This new policy is designed to create an easier, standard appeal process as well as protect students, faculty, and administrators. The policy was originally brought up by the Faculty Sports Liaison, voicing concern that student-athletes were being punished when they missed class for games. The new policy states students can have about 7% of class time excused as a sanctioned absence. which is equivalent to about 1 week of class. Any absences after that will be handled by the instructor.
A local nonprofit corporation called AM Housing is making an effort to have a homeless shelter up and running in Kirksville as early as next fall. The organization was formed this summer with former Kirksville Mayor Glenn Moritz serving as president and currently working on raising funds for the project. Representatives from AM Housing spoke during a city council meeting Monday, September 18th, and asked the city to contribute money to the shelter in the next year's municipal budget. The organization is also looking to raise funds from other sources. AM Housing representatives said there is a need for a homeless shelter in Kirksville, and while nearby cities like Hannibal, Columbia, Boonville, and Milan have shelters, Kirksville does not. Assistant City Manager Ashley Young said Project Nemo is also considering the possibility of opening a homeless shelter in town and is currently conducting a needs assessment. High Hope Employment Services in Milan and Shelter Plus Care, a voucher program administered through Preferred Family Health Care in Kirksville, are the only housing resources available to homeless individuals in Northeast Missouri at this time.
Next, stay tuned for the Truman Sports Update.
But before that, let's look at this week's forecast.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Two former Star Bulldogs will return to campus for homecoming weekend. Softball shortstop Elizabeth Econman and soccer forward Sarah Murray will be honored as the latest inductees into the Truman Athletics Hall of Fame. Director of Women's Athletics Communication Kevin White remembers watching both women from 2001 to 2004. He says they were phenomenal to watch and are true representatives of the university. Econman still holds numerous offensive records, and White says she was like the Mark Garrer of college softball, because opposing teams were scared when she was at the plate. Murray still holds numerous offensive records in women's soccer, and White says the team won 90% of its conference games in Murray's 4 years. He says both women were big reasons for their respective teams' success.
Those two individuals were right there with the reasons why our women's sports at that time won conference championships. I mean, they have multiple conference champions for those teams, and they were just, and All-Americans. I mean, you don't have that. You don't have All-Americans in team sports very often. It's pretty rare, and they were multiple-time All-Americans.
The football team's record fell to 1-5 on the season after losing 21-17 against Southwest Baptist University. The rematch between last season's top two teams in the GLVC ended in the goal line stand, where sophomore quarterback Jaden Barr threw an incomplete pass to senior wide receiver Jordan Jorgensen in the end zone with under 1 minute to play. Despite the loss, sophomore wide receiver Drew Slager had a career day, catching 7 passes for 102 yards. Head coach Greg Nesbitt says while positives can be found, the team cannot sugarcoat their struggles anymore and need to start winning games. The Bulldogs' next test will be the homecoming game Saturday against Grand Valley State University.
While they didn't break another record this time, the Truman women's golfers finished third out of 9 teams at the Bellevue Fall Invitational early last week in Omaha, Nebraska. The second round was cancelled because of rain and an unplayable course. 3 Bulldogs, senior Nicole Bartmettler, senior Stephanie Hollett, and sophomore Lindsay Rip, finished in the top 10 individually. Head coach Clint Fitzpatrick says the team had to deal with standing water on the fairways and bunkers the first round, but the team knew a cancellation was a possibility, so playing well the first day was important. The team will now travel to Bolivar, Missouri for the Lady Panther Fall Invitational.
teams wrapped up their season Saturday at the Division II Conference crossover at Romeoville, Illinois. The women finished 23rd out of 34 teams, while the men finished 20th out of 31 teams. Senior Michaela Highland was the women's top finisher, placing 87th out of 353 runners, and redshirt senior Bryce Pavey was the men's top finisher, placing 27th out of 349. Junior Keegan Walsh, the men's next top finisher, says the team this season has had strong leadership but also confidence in each other because of the pack mentality that has been instilled. Cross country's next race will be October 21st at the GLVC Championships hosted by the Kirksville Country Club. This has been your Truman Sports Update.
Stay tuned after the break.
Got a quarter? Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. For complete news coverage, be sure to stay tuned to KTRM and pick up a copy of the Index. Check out our news content on tmn.truman.edu and be sure to check out our variety show segments. You can also follow TMN on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for breaking news updates. And if you missed part of our broadcast tonight, check out TMN TV on YouTube.
If you've ever thought about being on TV, be sure to head on over to dmn.truman.edu/apply to fill out an application today. From all of us at TMN, thank you for tuning in and have a great rest of the week.